Brigade presents the Realty Debate, powered by Reliance Home Finance with Manisha Natarajan.
Exactly a year after the Smart City mission was launched by the central government, with guidelines, a mission statement for the 100th Smart City project and a budget of 48,000 crore rupees for 5 years, Prime Minister Modi decided to make enough noise around it to get the spotlight back on this endeavour. He was in Pune, where projects were launched in 20 cities selected in the first batch of mission through a city challenge competition. Today in the Realty Debate, let's revisit this mammoth vision and take stock on where the government is a year later. Joining me today, Om Ahuja, CEO, Residential Brigade Group. Also with me, Purushottam Kaushik, Managing Director, Sales, Cisco India and SARC. Professor Amitabh Kundu, Visiting Professor, Institute of Human Development, IHT and Senior Fellow, Delhi Policy Group. Pratap Padore, Founder and Director, Smart Cities Council India. And Kalhan Mattu, Director, Planet 3 Studios Architecture. Let me just set the perspective and remind our viewers on what really happened on that occasion of first anniversary of the Centre's Smart City mission. Well, on 25th June, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, he actually got together 84 Smart City projects, and these were launched, well, officially as we call them. Of them, 14 projects are designated for Pune alone, and 69 projects are earmarked for 19 other cities across the country at an investment of 2,000 crore rupees. In Pune, projects launched included slum rehabilitation, street and pedestrian walkway, modern buses, etc., and modelling project and city common mobility card. Ahmedabad has launched sewage treatment plant, housing project, smart learning in municipal schools. Bhubaneswar, which topped the list in the city challenge, launched a railway multimodal hub, traffic signalization project and an urban knowledge centre. New Delhi Municipal Corporation or Municipal Council launched a mini sewage treatment plant, and smart classrooms, Wi-Fi, smart LED street lights, city surveillance command and control centre. All these 20 cities will be linked through video conferencing. Now, my question to the panelists is, the range has been really huge. So, Professor, first question is to you, Professor Kundu, that what did you make of this whole big show which was put together by the Prime Minister, linking all the cities, getting all the state chief ministers on board? Do you think that was just to bring back the focus and attention and make enough noise so that the state governments realize how the centre is keeping a close eye on the progress?
Manisha, I think that as far as the present government is concerned, it is at a crossroad with respect to the future of the smart cities. You did mention 3 times there's a lot of noise being created in the first anniversary. You know, there's a big hype about the smart cities mission. The President of India in the joint session talked about this major thing coming up. But if you look at the allocation of funds, you find that it is 3,200 crores this year. Last year it was less than 100 crore. Now, if you have launched Smart City mission, not in 100 cities, but in select 20 cities, and then you have only given 3,200 crores. Minimum that was expected is 200, crore per city. And that would add up to 4,000 crore. It is less than that. And then now you have added 13 more cities. I have a feeling that the government is divided because there has to be a thrust, at least in an open public domain, on employment generation, rural infrastructure. And there has been criticism coming from civil society, from the researchers and academics, that perhaps this is not addressing the issues of the mass of the urban poor. So I have a feeling that the government is considering that how to balance these two things, urban development and overall regional development, employment generation, rural infrastructure.
Okay. Pratap Padore, then let me come to you. Here we have Professor Kundu saying that, there probably is confusion amongst the government itself, and that was the reason for the big noise which has been created. On the other side, you have Prime Minister Modi calling it actually a people's movement, a mass movement, because he said 25 lakh citizens got together and voted for it. So do you think it was unnecessary noise with it's a small beginning, a great beginning, but did we really need that kind of a big show and tell sort of an event that we saw in Pune?
I think it's the style with which our Prime Minister has been launching all the schemes so far, because he wants to see them through and he wants to see them successful, that he has a plan, and his marketing, I think we must give it to him that unless there had been marketing of this kind, we won't even know the names of the schemes. And in the previous regime, we didn't even know the names of the schemes that were, launched or whatever. So to that extent, let's give him full credit for that. But I also agree with, on the other hand, agree with Mr. Kundu about the fact that there is a division within the government at the local level particularly, because I think this whole thing about SPVs is sort of making people a little insecure at the local level. And they are wondering whether their powers, which were so far very well secure in controlling funds and actually doling out projects which they used to do for the cities and citizens, are suddenly being taken away by the center, because there is some sort of, because there is a board with representation from center and state. So I think from that aspect, there is a lack of clarity with all the people, who are part of the sort of functioning bodies in the ULBs. But I think wherever the city CEOs have been appointed, they are well aware, and I've interacted with some of them. They are quite well aware of what they can do. So I think it's about those who can really do the task very well. They're very efficient, and those who will keep muddling around. So we're going to get a mix of both.
Okay, we're going to get a mix of both. Purushottam Kaushik, as head of Cisco, you've been interacting very closely, working very closely from the planning development part to how you've seen this whole mission unfold over the last 1 year. And do you agree with Professor Kundu and Pratap Padore? So two things that have been mentioned: A, funds, where are they going to come from? B, really who's in charge here? Are these issues stumbling blocks that you see and challenges that are going to come up?
So, Manisha, so to begin with, we have been engaging with almost like 15 plus cities all across. The challenges that Pratap mentioned with regard to people working in silos, and suddenly SPVs coming in place where the aggregation of powers into SPV is one challenge. But that is also a solution to the issue that we were facing while we were engaging with cities. In a city, City Urban Development Authority, Municipal Corporation, Transport Authority, Electricity Board, Police, none of them are working with each other. And when we are saying smart city, a vision needs to be having a vision for the city and not in silos. So that was the objective of having an SPV and solving it. Yes, whether it will achieve the objective, we will have to see the timing as we move ahead. However, it's with the right intent and it's going to move ahead. Regarding the funding part, yes. With regard to whether government is able to fund the whole project of a few thousand crores coming in every city, for sure it is not. But what we are looking and what we have worked in various cities is that city has to monetize its current assets. Like NDMC, Pune, Bhubaneswar, all of them are looking at finding ways and means of monetizing their existing assets. For example, in Pune city, there may be more than 100,000 light poles which are there, which can be used for aggregating many services, including using it for telecom assets, optimizing the LED intensity, where like practically reducing the power bills, and mounting cameras. You will be surprised in Mumbai city, beside the light poles, because the municipal corporation did not give them permission, L&T or the operator had to erect one more pole, which is just basically removing the whole architecture of the city. So that those kind of issues need to be solved, where when we are looking at SPV, when we are looking at finding ways and means of funding these projects. And similarly, putting up fiber and allowing the operator to kind of lease out fiber for a longer period. So these will be the assets which need to be creating the funds.
So there are sources of monetization. All right, I'm going to come and sum up the challenges a little bit later. But Kalhan, what's your own opinion? I mean, I think one of the biggest critiques that I've read about this initiative is that, you know, the government might be positioning it as a smart city mission at a national level. Lots of cities probably will see an uplift. But when you look at the data, it's actually 33 cities. And proposals show that development is happening actually at just chosen localities. And you know, so these are small little silos within a larger city. And Venkaiah Naidu actually said that don't think it's going to change a whole city. It's actually small locations in a large city which are likely to see that change.
I think he was honest enough to admit that. The fact is that we always had these little bubbles of development that were fairly smart in a country that is overall being fairly poor in terms of infrastructure and planning. I think we're just making the bubble slightly bigger. Not to say that it takes away from need of that effort to be done right now. But at the end of the day, we are looking at a very localized kind of a solution for a particular problem, and we are making that as a model for development. But that is not so bad in itself. Those can serve as beacons for others to kind of follow, and that this prototyping has a rich history in urban development, where you see something that's successful and is replicated by communities around it. So I don't per se see an issue with that, but I have issues probably with some of the other details that go into financing and into operating these cities of the future.
All right. Are they any different from what our panelists have mentioned? I mean, the capacity of the urban local bodies, the funding, where is the money going to come from? Are there any other specifics which worry you? Because, we've debated this, whether you should create an SPV and bring an IS officer to actually ride above the urban local bodies and hold the project together. But then there's no other way. If there's no ownership, then who's going to take the projects forward?
No, absolutely. But Indians naturally have this little suspicion for corporate entities running their cities. The last experience we had for 100 odd years didn't turn out so well. So what I'm saying here is that we need to understand, and everybody needs to understand, that while we all desire development of the right kind, it'll come at a price. It may not come today, it may come after 5 years, but somebody has to foot the bills. The entities that are investing in SPVs are for-profit organizations. They would expect a return on investment, one.
Right.
Second, I think these are sensitive issues that need to be dealt with. The Mumbai context and how it almost derailed the Mumbai smart city mission that we had little work happening here, where the local interests were not very happy with giving the SPV the powers that they're normally entitled to.
So here we have the government willing to spend huge amount of money, asking local bodies to actually raise monies, and there you have developers saying that, hey, what are we doing wrong? We're creating townships which are pretty much smart, isn't it, Om Ahuja? So you've got so much funding going into a mission which will be spent on area-based development. Beneficiaries will probably be about 4% of the city's population. I wish that attention could actually shift to even what developers were doing. I mean, lots of them are actually creating already prototypes of smart cities and large townships, isn't it?
So, Manisha, we are, as Brigade Group, we are known to create smart townships. We have delivered smart townships in this part of the country, and we've seen the benefits what customers take away from the smart townships. And we know kind of challenges we go through in terms of creating that smart township. There's not only coordination, it involves a lot of things which basically which people don't notice it. What's a good thing, which I heard all the panelists talking about the intentions of the government. What's a really good thing is this government has clear game plan. They have a 2 lakh crore budget outlay specifically for smart city, and there is Amrut, which is basically another scheme which is interlinked to smart city, which has almost 50,000 crores of smart outlay. So this kind of budget is very important. There's a game plan that is important. And once you have a clear game plan, which was missing in the previous government, where you had a planning commission, you had no clarity in terms of what cities will do well, at least there is a clear game plan. In terms of execution, one needs to give little more time. It's too early to comment upon what is going, what is not going. Maybe they are also trying to see 20, 30 cities taking off, and eventually you will see more than 100 cities taking off. There is a right intent.
Okay. So on intent per se, Professor Amitabh Kundu, are you comfortable with the way this government is going about it? I mean, at least there could be multiple missions, Swachh Bharat mission, then there's housing for all, there's, so many of them coming together. So the skeptics say there are too many missions, and how are they all going to come together? But the other way of looking at it is that never before have so many citizens participated in multiple, whether they're multiple or single, but never before have citizens been galvanized by a central government in such a way. Would you agree with that?
Manisha, I think the most optimistic assessment that I get is that through smart cities, you are having an area-based approach. You are creating a bubble of development. Maybe a bubble is slightly larger, and hope that the model will be taken up elsewhere.
Why do you say it's a bubble? Do you expect that real estate prices there will go up? I mean, because land monetization will be one of the key challenges.
Well,
Why do you say it's a bubble? I haven't understood why would it create a bubble?
You know, in the smart city mission, there is an area-based component and also a pan-city component.
Got it.
Now, on 25th of June, when the Prime Minister launched the program in 2015, you would remember that he didn't mention even once about Bloomberg Foundation, foreign capital coming in, CCTVs and digital technology. He talked about water supply, sewerage, sanitation. He talked about cities being inclusive, taking the migrants. I'm talking about the launching of the mission. Now the point is, the mood of the country after specifically Delhi's election is that water supply, sewerage, sanitation in the cities must be subsidized. Now, with that kind of an environment, how do we expect the foreign companies to come in and make the cities inclusive by making investment in the slum areas for water supply, sewerage, sanitation?
Okay, so yes, so let me toss over to Purushottam. Purushottam, don't you think that there could be actually a way in which, just the way the housing minister said, that price has to be paid? If you want a 24/7 power and water, somebody has to pay for it. It doesn't come for free. But there is a way to charge in a way that at least those who are marginalized are not asked to pay. But the richer can pay. Are there enough models across the globe where you could have payment methods like this and satisfy the worry that Professor Kundu has?
Yeah, for sure. I think what we believe is that there has been an assumption that since people don't want to pay, there is no point in giving better services. Now, on the other hand, there have been built, like maybe for example, highways which have been on toll. People have been paying, like I pay 175 rupees on a Pune expressway because it gives me value. Similarly, when we are going to deploy solutions which are going to be all across city, which are going to give me better services, this assumption will fail. And that's where the driver will happen. Yes, there will be governments who will be perhaps going the shorter cut that, okay, fine, let me subsidize few things and try to kind of get some political mileage around it. But for sure, people who are willing, like I know for sure the students who are even willing to having 1,000 rupees monthly mobile bills and are willing to pay for many such services, why their tuition fees is maybe they're fighting over 150 rupees or 50 rupees. So there are people who are going to be becoming, like for better services, will be willing to pay. Now, obviously, your point is right, Professor Kundu, that where will the company coming from unless there is a way to monetize these investments? And we are seeing a few cities moving ahead and taking initiatives around it, that let me, either in a limited area, maybe the townships which are private townships like in Amanora, I know in Pune, something was experimented in this fashion. But in a larger area also, few cities are now going ahead and deploying solutions with the intent that we will be monetizing it over period of time.
Okay, so, but monetization in India has always been a challenge. Pratap Dode, I mean, if you look at the sector as a whole, we had to get rid of the toll at Gurgaon. Noida toll bridge is again talking about passing on the baton to another company trying to sell assets. So yes, you've got examples of where people have been willing to pay for higher and better services, but you still have to understand that this is a country where a large number of people don't have the ability to pay. Do you think it's going to become a roadblock in this entire vision of smart city becoming or getting fulfilled?
See, let's flip this whole question in another way. So you need to create resources. And so what better way to create resources than to save the wastage? The classic example is your street lights. You know, the LED light whole process that has happened across India now and going very successfully. Actually, if all the incandescent bulbs and the street lights are converted to LED, there is a total saving something to the tune of 50,000 crore rupees a year. Now, saving itself is the resource. So while we may say that cities have just 100 crores and that's not enough, look at the amount of water, like Kerala Water Authority and Bangalore Water Supply Board. They had nearly 50% of the water getting wasted, which was actually coming to the city. Out of the total water that came to the city, 50% could not be billed because it never reached. It was leaking or pilfered or whatever. And now suddenly with use of technology, you've been able to bring it down by 20-25%. That saving actually is in a way paying for the kind of investment that you do. So I think, one way is, yes, there are user charges and there will be challenges because we do have to meet the social obligations of the society. But on the other hand, if we can first of all curtail wastages by deployment of technology, a lot of resources can be create that generation of revenue. But the biggest challenge is the mindset. So while you might have private sector developers actually sort of emulating these examples of smart city benchmarks by deploying it in their private cities, as long as they show that we have been able to successfully run this unit well, it will inspire, just as the way the smart city mission is actually programmed to do, that take an area and inspire the rest of the city to do similarly. So I believe that the wastage is the greatest resource available to us, and if we are able to control that, that itself provides a huge amount of resource.
Kalhan, would you agree that, the whole concept of smart cities is actually resource optimization, and if you can crack that, then probably freed up resources could be used to subsidize services for those at the margins of the society?
I sincerely hope the equation does work out the same way eventually. I'm a great supporter of capitalist ways of doing things. It's not to say that I have the whole other view, but I really think that a lot of the conversation right now is being led by technology, and one does need to be aware of the fact that technology for smart cities by itself is a huge market. It's multi-billion market which has just come to India. We also need to be mindful of the fact that monetizing assets is something that we need to do very carefully, because these are common resources. They are as much owned by the government as are owned by the public. They actually you should know what you're selling your crown jewels for, and I think that's important as well. And the third factor which I mentioned before also is that are people sufficiently aware of the fact that they'll have to pay for it sooner or later, which might be a good thing. They need to, but then those who pay or have the ability to pay would be in a position of privilege within the bubble, and those who are not might be outside it.
Okay, so some takeaways that yes, it's great to actually have conversations around to keep the passion going, but you just have to move ahead, and these models, even if they're in small localities, can be replicated. I'm going to thank all my panelists here. I think we've made all the big points. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me today. Making cities smart is not only an imperative but really now a necessity, and urban population is growing. It's actually, we've added a huge number of people in our cities in the last decade, so we can only hope and keep our fingers crossed that the government gets this initiative right. Thanks so much for joining me.